Yes,
And
yes,
then,
that will be helpful.
and then if you have any questions, maybe we can hop on those questions. But let's keep the questions, only till maybe 9:50, sorry, 7:15 or something, so that we have more time to do stuff. Uh, okay, so with that, so we have seen about spaces in DataSphere, and then what are the different roles in DataSphere. So we have global roles and then scoped roles, and we saw what is the differences. And then coming to space management, we saw different things in space management, like what is the purpose of space, what is the space priority, and then how do you create a database schema user, and the two types of schemas that we have in the space, etc. And we saw about roles, the standard roles, and then custom roles, and then how we can create a scoped role. So the standard roles and the custom roles, which are the global level or normal roles, they give you access to different things in SAP DataSphere environment. Like with or without those roles, you will not have access to do certain things, like in the system level itself. Whereas in the scoped role, you have access to do certain things within a particular scope. Or a scope is nothing but a space or multiple spaces, right? So this is like space level roles, and this is like the system level roles. And then we saw tables and views and materialized views, etc. So in tables, we also saw there are different semantic types. So far, we have not gone into the details of all these semantic types. Today, we'll do that. So you'll have more understanding. But in general, we saw what are those semantic types and what they both apply to tables and views, and how do you persist a view and how you can schedule a view, etc. And all this is done in a uh, place called Data Builder, and which is the IT centric uh, space where technology consultants or people with technology background work and build stuff for the customers, right? So we saw that views again have two types. So one is you can build them graphically, which in turn creates SQL, or which in turn generates SQL that creates a view in the database. And then if you are SQL expert, you can directly write SQL and create the view. So other than the creation of these views, there is no difference between a graphical view and a SQL view, because graphical view is where you drag and drop things, but the system generates the SQL, right? So you have to have that understanding, because some people, when interviewed or when they are working on something, they feel like there is a difference, but there is no difference between a graphical and the SQL view. And if you see the builder panel side, everything will be the same. Only difference is in the canvas, where you are going to write code, which is a pro code approach, and or you are going to do graphically, which is like no code approach. And now coming to difference between tables and view, we saw, and then we saw about materialized view, or persisting the data in the view, and why to do that, because you are doing some complex calculations, or you are joining multiple tables, union from multiple tables, again, which we have not seen in views so far. So we are going to cover that today. So how to have multiple tables and then join them in a view, and then we'll see how materialize the persistence can help you with performance. And in tables, we also saw there are remote tables, which means they again don't store the data. They are again virtual providers where they directly get the data from the source. Again, in the remote tables, we saw that the data can be persisted, and we compared the difference between persisting a view and persisting this remote tables, because in persisting views the logic is different. The data may be in a local table, or it may be in a remote table, but in the view, maybe the view has multiple calculations or some complex logic going on, and to improve performance, maybe you are doing the persistency. Whereas in remote tables, the data is not in the system itself, right? So it is purely remote, and the performance constraints can be related to remote, right? It can be due to network, it can be due to the source being slow, etc. Right? So that's why. So even though both are used for performance benefits, there is some difference between them, and we discussed about. And these are the different semantic types. Right? We saw analytic data set is deprecated. We should use fact, and we also created a basic, analytic model, and saw how we can create a live connection in SAC and consume this model. And we have not talked about dimensions, text hierarchy, etc. So we will do that. And we saw, what is the difference between saving and deploying. And we talked about the cron expression and how you can use it to create somewhat diverse schedules in Datasphere. And then we talked about ER diagrams and how to use CSN notation to import and export various objects. And we also saw how to create a database user. And we opened the HANA DB Explorer and we were able to see the various schemas. And we did some SQL, we did some graphical view, we did some SQL view. So in graphical view, we basically touched all the operators like on the view itself. But one thing that we did not touch is the join and union, so which we will see today. And in SQL view, we have seen the basic SQL view. And then there is a second option in SQL, which is a SQL script view. So basically in SQL view, you can decide between writing basic SQL or the simple SQL, which is not programmable, and then you can write SQL script, which is kind of programmable, right? So we will see the SQL script type of view in SQL view. And that's one of the reasons or one of the things that you can do in code, which you cannot do in graphical, right? So if there is a thing like when you should go for SQL view, it's most of the time when you require some SQL script. And ER diagram, I think you are clear. And coming to the topics covered in the last week, so we saw that various smaller things are various allied things. So the main two things in Datasphere are the data builder and business builder. So other than data builder and business builder, there are so many other options which were introduced at different points in time, and then which were moved around in different points in time. So we saw what is repository explorer, and what is catalog, what is data marketplace, and what is semantic onboarding. In semantic onboarding, we saw how to do business content activation. And previously, business content used to be on its own entity in the navigation bar, but now it is inside the semantic onboarding. So all that we saw, and then we talked about the life cycle management. Right? So how do you do transports, etc. And then we also discussed about the two types of packages. So we saw what is a repository package and then what is a transport package or a delivery package. Right? So repository package is created by modelers or developers who knows about the content, and it is specific to one space, and it acts as a package where you can bundle things together. Right? So you know about the dependencies and so on because you are the modeler or your team is the modeling team. So you can come up with one package where you put all the dependencies together, or in a logical way. Like you can say, okay, this package depends on this package, which depends on this package, like that. And then the delivery package is intended for the administrators who do the actual transport, and they can transport the repository packages. So instead of collecting the objects in the transport, if the modeling team has already collected in the repository package, they can simply transport the repository package. And we created a basic analytic model. We just created a fact, and from the fact we used create analytic model, and we created a very simple analytic model, and we saw how to connect SAC to DSP, and then we consumed it in SAC. Right. So that's one of the way which we created the connection, which is called a live connection. There is another way, which is OData connection, which we have not seen. So we will see that also. So this is what has happened, so far, and it has been pretty fundamental or pretty basic, right? So we have not done any serious topics, or we have not done any business case or real-time scenario, anything like that. And bear with me for 1 or 2 more sessions. It will still be like that because we have few more topics to cover in the data builder and business builder itself, right? So once we get those things out of the way in 1 or 2 sessions, all that we are going to do in the remaining time is going to be doing end-to-end scenarios, right? So we'll do at least 1 or 2 complete end-to-end scenarios where we use all these concepts that we learned so far in pieces together in a like a project like situation. And before we begin that, I'll also cover a topic called SAP Activate methodology, right? So which is the SAP's recommended way of doing project implementation, right? So today's plan is we will see about the views in Data Builder and especially the join and union. And then we'll also see about the data flow and task chain. And we will also see, like, if we have time, it depends on the time and the number of questions that people are asking, right? So if we have time, we'll go back to the semantic topic, and then we'll start with creating different semantic objects. So if you think about it, so far in the analytic model, we had a fact table which was, abandoned. So it was just a fact table. It was not connected to any dimensions, right? So we ideally we want to connect them to dimensions, and then this dimension should have text hierarchies and so on, right? So all that we'll see. So before we start today, any questions?
I have a question.
Mhm.
Is there any way to schedule the SQL view which is being parameterized SQL view? Is there any way? The way we done in the way we created a calculation view, which is being linked to our query through composite provider, and that query is being linked to SAP. That is the approach we followed in BW when on HANA, which we were doing in BW. So, is there any way we can do it at DataSphere the way I have told you?
Yeah, you can use both graphical view or SQL view, and then in the persistency, you can create a schedule. That's one way. Another way is like in BW, if you are using extractors in BW, to load from your source to BW itself, you can do that either in data flow, or if you don't want to do any transformations or anything, and you want to do multiple tables or multiple calculation views, then you can do with that using replication flow also.
Okay, so how we will schedule the parameterized view, because it will be changing on daily basis. So is there any way to pass the value to the view which is being parameterized at that point of time?
So when creating a data flow, you have an option called input parameters, right? So in that input parameters, you can pass the value to the source also. Like if the source is okay, we'll come to that. This is going in a way of one-to-one project mentoring, right? So we'll come to that. So if you have any general questions, we'll ask, because some people will not know what is a parameterized calculation view.
Okay. Yes, you are maybe you are right. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll come to that maybe at the end.
And the question which the link which the document which we have shared to us in that way, it has been written that data lake can be linked to only to one that one space, not more than that. So.
Yeah.
So, but how it will be done in that way? When you create another space, there will be no option of data lake. But I have not gone through. But maybe it is the way it will be done.
Yeah, so we have some more space topics. So one of the topic is getting data lake permission, and then also about HDI container. So we'll talk about that in that particular session. It's almost towards the end of the training, and why it is that way is because it is a topic which is good, but it's not that used that frequently. So and again, we need to know certain things like from the HANA world, like what is an object store, what is a data lake, and what is a data lake file, and so on. Right. So we'll touch that towards the end of the training.
Okay. Thank you so much. Got it.
Okay. So now coming, excuse me. Okay. So now coming to the today's topic. So we want to create views where we can do the joins. So if you remember, we did some join exercises in the SQL console, right? So I am bringing up the SQL console now. So again, a quick refresher, and then we'll see how to do this in a graphical view and a SQL view. And then I will also give you some challenges. After I tell some topics, in every topic I'll give some challenges, and if you are able to figure out then and there, like in the hands-on time itself, that's fine. we'll, everyone will get to know how you did it. And then I can also give you a more advanced challenge, which you can take it as assignment and then do it after the session also. So I have, okay, let me close all this. Close all. And then I have two tables. So one is called sales order and the other is called sales order item, right? So let's see the data in sales order. So the sales order table has, order ID, customer ID, and order date. So order ID is from 1 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? And then in sales order item, we have the item level information. So we have sales order item ID, and then we have the sales order ID also. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 6. We don't have 4 and 5, right? So these are the two tables which we want to join, basically, right? And then I have created them in my what you call in my RAM hash DB space, my OpenSQL space. Right, the first thing what we are trying to answer here is how do you consume certain things that you have created in your OpenSQL space to your, you know, to your normal data sphere space, right? So to do that, you can go to either a view or a data flow or anything where you can find a source, right? So there is two things here. One is called repository, the other is called source. So what is repository? So everything in your space itself, like either a physical table or a remote table or a view or anything that you created inside this particular space, right? So inside the data sphere space, RAM1. So I'll find that all in my repository, right? What is a source? So anything that we are going to get from a connection or from, in this case, from the other schemas, right? That we will get from the sources. So in sources, we have two things. So one is from connection and other is all these spaces. So some of these spaces, just hang on with me for some time. I'll tell you what are all these other spaces. But for now, let's concentrate on this SQL schema, open SQL schema space. Right? So RAM _1 hash DB, that space is there. So you don't have to do anything. As soon as you create a space and then you create some objects in that open SQL schema, it will be visible here in your what you call in your normal data space, right? So we can see the two tables, sales orders and sales order item, right? So if it is the first time you are using that tables, right? So it will give you an error. So I think this is already imported. So let me delete that. I'll show you how it looks like the first time you do it. So sales order item. Okay, so now we have just created some table in the OpenSQL schema and we want to consume it here. So this is the first time I'm going to drag this table. So if I drag and drop it, see here, it will ask you import table, right? So the moment you say import and deploy, that table will be imported and then deployed in our current, space. So that's how you bring in the table from your open SQL schemas. This is not exactly, a remote table because the data is still inside the same HANA where, this data sphere is running. The only difference is, so if you go to the normal, the data builder view, it will show us a local table only. But here, the only difference is you see the local schema, the schema name is different. That's all. So in the normal data builder, if I go here, it will just say a local table. Right? So if I see sales order, it is a local table, a relational data set. It's not a remote table. And then if you try to import it like from here, if you say import remote tables, that will not work because it will only read tables that are from a connection, that are outside of DataSphere, where the data is not stored inside DataSphere itself. Whereas this is not truly a remote table. It is just inside the same database, but inside a different schema. So the way to get it is like either I showed you in graphical view, it works in different places also. So wherever you have this option of getting data from repository and source, if you go inside source, you should see your schemas. You can have many number of schemas like OpenSQL schemas inside a space. And then when you drag and drop for the first time, it will just ask you to import, right? So that's how you import from your OpenSQL schema. So any questions on that?
So it will also work for the views.
Yes, it will also work for the views. Yes. So now I am bringing in the sales order table, so which we just now imported and deployed. So when I drag it, it doesn't say anything, right? Because the table is already there. Now I am bringing in one more table, sales order item table, which is not already there, right? And when I drop it, it's asking me to import and deploy. And if I say cancel, here there will be an issue that says, the table is not deployed yet. So it's ideal to deploy it whenever you are using it for the first time. Right? So it will take some time. It will get deployed. So now it got deployed. And then there is one more error. That is basically because in a graphical view, there cannot be things like without a link. So everything should end in that graphical view, right? So we have to connect these two things somehow. But if I click one of the tables and I see all the operators that are available, I have filter, I have projection, I have calculation, I have aggregation, I have joint suggestion, and then I have data viewer and lineage and the data builder, like open in the data builder, etc. But I don't find any join option. The thing that you have to do is whenever you drop one object on top of other, drag and drop, you will have these three options: union, join, and replace. So if you say replace, it's very simple, as it directly suggests that existing object will be replaced by whatever you are dropping. Whereas if you put join or union, then those two objects, like either table or view, they'll be joined, right? So first let's see the join. So the moment I put the join, automatically one more additional node will get added. So which is a default projection, because whenever you are joining two tables, ideally you write a select query where you will say what are the fields that you want to select, because the two tables can have so many fields, and then you would like to decide which fields you want to select. That's one reason. The other reason is the join will result in the names which are sometimes you don't want that name. So if the column names are common between the two tables, you will end up having _1, _2, some names which you might not like. So you would want to change name, right? So for this reasons, whenever you join, automatically a projection column will get created. And now let's go back to the join. So when you click this join or any node on this tree, so it will show that particular node's property, right? So now I have clicked the join, it is showing the join property. Here there are two best practices that you can follow, right? So the one thing is always try to give a name. So if you leave it as join one, that is fine. And if I leave it this as projection one, that is fine. As long as the view is very simple or there are no lot of things going on. But if the view gets bigger and more complex, and whenever it fails and gives you an error, so if you have a meaningful name, it is easy to debug or it's easy to understand the error. So if you give names like join one, and if there are like 4 or 5 joins, then in the error log, it is saying something, then it's difficult to find out, okay, where is that happening? Right? So that's why, so if it's a very small view, yeah, leaving it as join one doesn't hurt. But if there are many joins and if you want to give a meaningful name, generally you can give the name as, table one underscore table two, and then if you want to give the join type, you can give that. So you have to come up with a naming convention with your team, and then you can work on having that as a standard practice in your team. Coming to the second thing, second best practice is this cardinality that we will discuss in a moment. But before that, we have join type. So as we already discussed in the SQL side of things, right? So you already know what are these different join types, right? So we have cross join, full, inner, left, and right. So inner join is where you have data in table one. Let's see the data. So you have data in table one, which is sales order ID. And yeah, one more thing to remember is whenever you are doing left join or something in inner join, the table order doesn't make a difference, right? Whereas when we are doing left join, which is the left table, so you have to see when you click the join, when you come down here, you can see the mapping field, and the mapping was done automatically by the system because the names matched. If the names did not match, this mapping will not be there, right? So it will be like this, and then you have to do the mapping. So you have to say, okay, which are all the key fields that needs to be mapped, right? So the system will automatically try to guess based on the column names and then the data inside the columns, and it will try to give a best join suggestion. But yeah, you always have to verify that join suggestion. And the other important thing is you have to see from here in the mapping or here in the cardinality, which is actually used as the left and which is actually used as the right. Generally, you will have one table on the stage, and the second table you are bringing and dropping on that. So the first table, which was on the stage, that becomes the left, and whichever you are dragging and dropping, the new table that you are bringing in, that generally becomes the right. And generally in this order that it maintains, uh, in the top, the right table will be there, and in the bottom the left table will be there. So that sometimes can be counterintuitive. Some people will expect the left may be up and the right may be down. So because that is not obvious, like if it is a vertical thing, you can easily say what is left and what is right, but as it is horizontal, you cannot say that. So the best thing you can do is click the inner join and then see in the cardinality or the mapping section. So that's one thing. Now coming to the join type, like we saw, it is in inner. So we can already see that the join preview. So whichever node you click, and you will get the data preview, not only in the table. So intermediate, if you are doing some calculation, joins, anything, that node, if you click, you will get the preview of that node. So we are seeing the preview after the join. So it is basically joined, the sales order tables and the item table. And now you see there are two ID columns, right? So one ID column is sales order ID, and then the other is sales order ID again, because they are coming from two tables. But if you see in the projection, the system automatically takes only one ID column because it's basically the duplicate, right? So if you have joined based on two columns or three columns, the system will automatically exclude one set of those columns from the projection. And if you want to further exclude other columns, you can do that here, right? Again, you see in the projection column also, this is a dynamic preview of the projection column. So now we don't see the two sales orders here. Now coming back to the join itself, right? So yeah, you can change the different join types and then you can see the various results. So for example, if I do a left join, so immediately it is not refreshing. So one thing that you can do is you can go to some other node and then come back, or you have a refresh button here itself in the previewer, right? So you can click that also and then you can refresh. So now I have used a left join, so which means all the records from the left table, even though there is nothing in the right table. So that's what is happening here. So in the left table, we had sales orders from 1 to 5, right? And in the right table, we did not have any entries for 4 and 5. But in the right table, there was an extra entry for 6. So we have asked for left outer join. So it took all the matching and then it took all the left outs in the left table. So that's why we have null values for these things, right? So that is left, and you already know all the other join types. So I'm not going by join type, right? So one thing that you can help the system is with performance. And how do you do that? So if you understand these two tables well, only if you understand the data in the two tables that you are joining well, then you can set these options so that there will be some HANA level hints that are going and that will help improve the query. But if you don't know your table well, it is best to leave this untouched, right? So what is this distinct value? So if you already know that, there will be always distinct values, there will not be any duplicates in your result set, then basically you can enable this. So if you don't know if there are duplicates or there are, unique values, then don't enable this. And same way, the cardinality between the two tables, right? So if you know that, okay, so this table has, generally sales order and sales order items, what is the cardinality? Can anyone tell me?
1:n.
Exactly. So in one sales order, you can have multiple line items, right? So this is a fictional table. That's why you have null values and all, but generally there will not be any nulls. There will be a sales order ID in all the sales order item ID. But one sales order can have, line items like 10, 20, 30. SAP generally counts in tens. So 10, 20, 30, 40, like that. There will be many sales order items. So basically, we know the cardinality. We can say that, in one sales order item, there will be exactly one, sales order only. One item cannot be part of many sales orders, right? So I can say one. And then here I can say many, right? So I am basically saying every row in sales order joins to zero or multiple rows in sales order items. Here we can also say instead of zero or many, I can also say exactly one. So if I know that there is always one-to-one relationship, not even zero to zero or one, but exactly one-to-one relationship, I can say exactly one. Here also same way I can say exactly one. That means every row in sales order joins to only one row in sales order item. That is not true. In this case, we want every row in sales order joins to zero or multiple rows in sales order item, right? So previously, people used to get confused how this relationship is. That's why now they are giving this hint, right? So here you can read these two statements. So one is from this direction, the other is the opposite direction. So here it says every row in sales order item joins to only one row in sales order, which is true. So both the statements seems kind of true because I know the nature of these two tables. So I can give this in my join condition. And what this does is, so if you see the preview of your SQL, see here, left exact one to many join. So instead of the place, it's just saying left join. It is now saying left exact one to many join. So what that will do basically is it will give, the query engine, the engines inside HANA, some hints on how to do the query in a better way, right? So whenever possible, the HANA will take this hint and the performance will be better. So this is basically only for performance optimization, and you should only do it if you know exactly about the tables, the nature of the tables. So if you know that, then yes, best you can give these options. So yeah, we have joined two tables and we see the result. We basically want only the inner join. So I'm just giving inner join and I do a refresh. Yeah, that looks fine to me. And then I can go to the view, and if I want, I can deploy the view now. Right? So I can give a name. I can say yes. And it will be of type fact, and I can just deploy the view. Right. So any questions on joining inside the view?
Not exactly joining. Can I ask some question?
Mhm.
So, see, I think you mentioned in the previous class, like it follows some kind of same architecture, like either HANA modeling or else CDSV architecture, kind of base. Then, I mean, fact and all, it will be like attribute analytical and consumption view kind of architecture it follows. So the distinct you have mentioned, right, in the screen, so that we can do it in the higher order view, right, instead of the base view, so that it can be reusable.
Yeah, in the base view, generally it's good to do one table to one view, but these things like the distinct, I don't think. I mean, it does a significant uh, damage if you do it in the lower level also. I mean, it is good actually. So I will think about it, and then I have some large tables, so I will try it out and see if there are some differences, and then maybe I'll answer this.
Okay. Second query is like
So in
you have.
general, what we do is in the first level view, we will talk about the view layering in a different session. So
Okay.
in general, in the first level view, we will keep it as it is. Like we will not do any changes mostly. Right, we will just do some renaming and things like that if required. But in general, the first layer is like, okay, yeah, there are a bunch of tables, and then we create some views on that.
Yeah. Second thing, you have connected with a schema, HANA schema, if I'm not wrong, directly HANA DB schema, right? So can I like think like DataSphere can be an alternative to HANA modeling, kind of, or even if we can do, I think in DataSphere we cannot do CRUD operations. Apart from that, I think every query operation we can do it in DataSphere, if I'm not wrong.
In DataSphere, you can do CRUD operations. So basically, in the system administration and configuration. So you can do CRUD operations, not in the DataSphere space, but like we saw in the OpenSQL space. By CRUD operations, I mean you can do. Yeah, we are basically creating the table in the DataSphere only, right? So that itself is a. So,
Oh,
yeah,
if DataSphere is
so
capable of doing all
the only thing that you cannot do, I mean, not only thing, the many things DataSphere HANA cannot do. For example, you have multiple HANA modeling concepts, right? Like you said, we have this calculation view architecture, and then we have there is the integration suite of HANA tools, right? SDI, SDQ, all that. And then there is the replication services. And there are different things that HANA is doing, which you cannot do here. But the thing that you can do, like, because you said we cannot do CRUD, we can do CRUD. So one thing we already saw at the space level, we can create some users to be the read-only user for that space or the write user for an OpenSQL schema space. Same way in the configuration, we have a separate layer called database access. And here also you can create users. So if I create a user, so that will be like the database analysis user, which will have read-only permission to read all the space schemas, right? All the space schemas, not the OpenSQL schemas. For example, in this system, I have say 100 spaces. I don't know, maybe 30, 40 space at least we'll have, right? So all those space schemas, we can have a system level, 35 spaces are there. If you want to do something where you want to read operation, then you can go here, configuration, database access, and then you can create something that can access all space schemas. Right? Same way, you can also create database users where you can directly have OpenSQL schema, which is not only directly related to one space or something. You can directly create a system level, and where you can do all the CRUD operations like DDL, DML, all those operations you can do without any limitation, right? So that way, if you think about it, yes, they have given you powerful HANA features, but in comparison to what exactly HANA can do, yeah, there are many things that this underlying data layer of this DataSphere cannot do all those things. So it's not a replacement directly, but it is a, like you talked about the other aspect also, where DataSphere being the modeling tool of the future. That I agree. So maybe yeah, HANA might take a backseat when it comes to the modeling aspects, and DataSphere will be predominantly used, at least for the analytics modeling, right? So there are other places where you can use modeling, like you are creating an app or something. There, HANA will still continue to use those traditional modeling approach, but at least for analytics, you will directly consume from HANA.
Okay, because except SAC integration, I feel like HANA has better features than DataSphere, HANA modeling, I can say.
Actually, they are coming up with more nice features, which, for example, like someone and me were discussing about comparing this DataSphere with Snowflake and Databricks, etc. Right. So one of the feature they are coming up with in Snowflake, for example, I told the scaling up and scaling down is very easy. Now, same way in DataSphere also they are introducing something called ECN, Elastic Compute Node. Right? So where you can buy this different types of computes. So one of the main differentiating factor between DataSphere and the other data warehouse traditional tool like in the cloud spaces that they can leverage that cloud power, the elasticity, right, which was lagging in DataSphere, but now they have introduced that also. And basically, yeah, they're seeing the market and they are catching up on different things. So maybe in couple of
they're trying to compete with alternative competitors like Amazon, AWS. I mean AWS and other tools which they are using, right? So I think
so not exactly. They are actually partnering up with them. For example, SAP has a partnership in SAP Cloud. Strategy is like this. They do not. So previously they tried to compete in the cloud space, but then they decided, okay, it's not good, or it's not even scalable to compete with Amazon, Google, and Azure. So they partnered up with them, meaning the cloud infrastructure they are getting from AWS or Amazon and Azure only. So they are not competing in the infrastructure as a service or anything. Only from the platform layer SAP is starting. So the platform as a service is BTP, right? And then the DataSphere and SAC, all these are like software as a service. So there is no competition between the infrastructure providers, but the competition is with other cloud providers like Databricks provides data warehousing service, and again, even with Databricks, DataSphere has a partnership where they benefit from each other like that. So most of this is not a direct competition, but I would say, yeah, I mean, they are trying to close the gap. So whatever feature they go to a customer meeting and then they see the competition. Like other company will come and they pitch their uniqueness, and then SAP will be like, okay, that is missing. Maybe we'll do that. So like that they are doing.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so now when we are talking about configuration, I wanted to show you all two other things, right? So one is the audit. Right, I have told you all not to enable audits in the spaces because the audit space is limited and it will quickly run out. But good thing, Hanit has enabled the audit, and we can already see that there are some audit entries for Hanit, right? So number of entities, etc. Right. So this is the space ID. Probably in this space, he activated the audit, right? So now how do I view this audit? Right. So how do I see all these logs? Should I go to the database explorer and then should I go to the schema and write query? Yes, you can do that, but there is a much better way. So if you go here, configuration, and there is an audit tab. So here you have a user. So you can select one user and then say that, confirm the selected space. And what that will do is, so if I go to my data builder, so you have already seen that while I was showing the view and sources. So there was an audit space which was visible in my space. So if I go into that RAM1 space, graphical view, sources. So if you see here, the DWC audit reader, right? So that is where we will have all this audit information. For example, we have this audit log overview table. Right, so which is the exact table that is being read here that says the space ID, the number of entities, etc. Right, so if I come here and if I do a data preview, so if you see here space ID, so Hanit, audit log count, this one, and then these are all some technical spaces. So if you see the dollar, you can ignore those. So the actual spaces will be like this. The space name directly, not with $2 preceding and ending. So yeah, so this is how you can access the various log information. And again, this is from an administrator perspective. We are not going to go into detail about it. but I will share you a blog on this. So if you are from admin perspective, you can dig deeper and you can know about it. But in general, yeah, on your day-to-day activity, you will not be doing a lot of this audit. Only whoever is in the security space or basis team moving to cloud, etc. They'll be doing this. And again, the another thing I wanted to show is under the monitoring. So again, here we have to confirm a space. So again, I have confirmed the space DOM1 itself, right? And this will enable some of the system schemas, like all these things you see here, right? Again, you can enable this and you can use that to build. So whenever it says you can use the builders to view or work with a monitoring view, that basically means, so wherever you see this, you can use the builders to create a view. That basically means you can go to the data builder, and then under sources you will find whatever you are trying to activate, right? So I don't want everyone to go crazy and try this out now. So maybe whoever is interested in actual admin activities and monitoring, etc., you can try it, not now, maybe after the session. Why I'm telling this is, if multiple people are trying to do this in parallel, that will not work well. It will fail. It will throw error messages. The system will not function properly. So leave it for now, and maybe on a weekday or something when others will not compete for this, you can take it, you can change it, and then you can try it out. But again, like I said, it's not part of your regular DataSphere activity. Right. So I was just answering this because some of you might be wondering why I have so many schemas while you don't have it. So this is why, because I have enabled this thing. Multiple. There are different settings here, some of which we'll cover. And the two of the settings I wanted to talk about were this audit this space and then this monitoring this space. Okay, so let's go back to the data builder. And let's go to the graphical view. Now someone tell me, so I am building, for example, a graphical view like this, right? So I have one table and I have the second table, and they are doing inner join, and I can get the SQL, right? So I have the SQL. So if I copy this SQL and if I put it in my, the database explorer, do you think it will work or it will not work?
See, you did not deploy it, right? If you deploy it, then it creates a table or inside a specific schema, and then you can run it in SQL console.
Yes, but if you think about it, these tables are already part of this RAM one hash DB, right? And I am already in that schema only. So if I run this,
okay, then it should work.
yes, so it will work as long as, so the first time when I was dragging these tables, right? So for example, I don't know which tables are already there. So I'll try this. The first time I'm dragging these tables, if I change the name, right? So that basically becomes, a different table, right? And then that will not work. Like if you copy the query and put it here, it will not work because the select statements that are selecting from some table, right? So here you see sales order item and sales order. These are the two table names, right? So because I just clicked import and deploy, the same name was used, right, for my tables. But if I have, when I said import and deploy, if I have done it differently, right? So if I have changed the name, then basically the query that is going to get generated will be different, and then it will not properly work here, right? So that's one of the reasons. So many a time what you will be doing is, so generally, if you're building a graphical view or if you're building a SQL view, now the SQL view inside the DataSphere, that editor is becoming more and more mature. It is giving proper suggestions, and it is giving proper syntax help and so on. But in the past, this SQL view, inside the data sphere in the SQL that editor is kind of very basic. So naturally, people will try to use this SQL console, right? And the problem is you cannot interchangeably use the SQL if you mess up with the object name. Not mess up, you change the object names. So it is good, to keep the same names as long as you know what you're doing. Then you can change it, and likewise you can adjust the SQL. But in general, one of the reasons to keep the name as it is for the interoperability, or you can put the SQLs here to there and there to here. So if you don't want to break that, it's one of the reasons to keep the names as it is. Okay, so now let's talk about unions, right? Same as the joins only. So I am having one table which is called sales Q1, and I import that and deploy it. Again, I am using the same name. Let's wait for it to deploy. So it's deployed. So I'm bringing in one more table, dropping it on top of this. And while dropping it, if I want union, before I drop it only, when I hover on top of this, I have to come to union and drop it. And then it's going to do a union. And again, I'm importing with the same name. So again, in the import wizard, which is very simple compared to the join wizard, right? So in the import wizard, it tries to auto map the columns again based on the name and the data that are in the column, etc. And most of the time, for the tables that are coming from proper sources like HANA, BW, etc., they will have proper matching names, so it will auto map. But it is always good that you verify it once, and sometimes if the mapping is not there, for example, 2 columns it has mapped, and in one column, one place it was called just amount, other place it was called sales amount, or in other place it was called sales amount in local currency or LC, something like that, then some of the column will be mapped and then some of the column will be unmapped, right? And in general, here there will be many columns, like 50 columns or 40 columns. So you don't have to scroll and search. You can go to the unmapped section and then you will exactly see whatever is left without mapping. And by that way, you basically filter a lot of things that are already mapped, and then you can just map the unmapped ones, right? And same way, if you just want to check if your mappings are right, you can just go to the map and then you can check, okay, yeah, the mapped columns are right. So the other thing is like if
here see, you mentioned that there are 2 different columns in 2 different tables, but union will accept only same column names. If the columns are different, then we need to use alias for that column name. So here it will accept, or it will we need to manually add the alias to the different name columns.
Yeah. So basically, union will accept even if the name is different. Only thing is, the number of columns and the data types, if they match, it will union them and it will give a result. But the auto mapping will not be there. So that's the one reason, like you might want to map it yourself. But yeah, you can have the different names. That should not be a problem. You can try it out also. The other thing, like if you want to rename the resulting column, for example, one of that is sales amount and the other one is amount in local currency. If you want to rename the column after the union, maybe you can put a projection, right? So because in join, the projection will be automatically added, but in union, it is not added because like you said, that is the general assumption that in union, all the column names should match, right? So that's why there is no projection. And then there will not be any duplicates also. That's the reason there is no projection. But sometimes, yes, if you want to rename columns after union, you can do like this. But before union itself, if you want to harmonize that things, that's where the layered thing we are talking about, right? So you will generally be connecting 2 views. So in the view level itself, you would have adjusted the names.
Understand. So I understand now, because if you don't use projection, so what happens in basically if you do union, right? So why I am saying this column must be same with same name. Once you do union, system will not understand, right? From which columns. Suppose columns are different, amount and amount in local currency. So which column, even though you mapped it, so how union will understand which column name it needs to consider, union amount or amount in local currency. So that confusion will be there to the from system perspective. So that is the doubt I have. But yeah, maybe I don't know how DataSphere handles it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So here we have the union, and then in union again, you know about union and union all. So in general, union all will allow duplicates, and union will not allow duplicates. So union will filter any duplicates that are there, right? And union all will not filter any duplicates. So it will return all the results. That's why it's called union all. So if you see here, union all, we are getting 6 results, right? So including some duplicate like this 102 smartphone 3000, 102 smartphone 3000. That is basically a duplicate, right? Which is returned in union all. By default, it is a union all behavior. So if you want duplicates, then you leave it union all. But for some reason you do not want duplicates. Say for example, you are merging sales from 2 quarters which are coming as 2 files or 2 different sources, and you are sure that there should not be any duplicates. And if there are duplicates, and if the transaction is again occurring in the 2 data sets, there's basically a duplicate which you want to remove. So in that case, you basically do, instead of the default union all, you turn this off, and then it will just do the union, right? So now you will see it will return not 6 but lesser records, 5 records, right? So that's the only setting you have here. So now I have a question for you, right? So which you can try and solve. Generally I will try to think in SQL console, right? That way it's clear for me. But once you are comfortable with the graphical, you can also think in graphical. But here is the question, the challenge I want you to think, right? For example, now we have a scenario. Think about it. The sales, one sales is coming from the offline store, and the other sales is coming from the online store, right? They are not at transaction level, they are already summarized level. So we just want to get the totals. For example, see, I have same product, smartphone, tablet, smartwatch. So this sales Q2 is from my offline store, sales Q1 is from my online store. What I want is, in the view is, I want the totals of all the products, right? So I want 102 smartphone and then 3000. Instead of removing the duplicate, right, I want 102 smartphone and this 3000 and this 3000 to be added, like 6000.
You can do aggregation. You can add aggregation in the graphical instead of projection, and then make that as sum or that column. So automatically
No. Now you guys try to do it as a assignment now itself, like hands-on, and then if you can show it, then that's good. So yeah, to get these tables, maybe I'll share the SQL to create the tables in your schema, and you can use that to create.
Maybe we'll try after session, because I think now we need to create table and then all those things. So it will take some time.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, from others, like, do you want some hands-on or do you want to go to the next topics? I would say do a hands-on now for 2 reasons. One is some of you or most of you will be working professionals, and once you attend the training, I'm sure many of you might not do a hands-on. So the other thing is it can be also as a break. So if someone is sitting for a long time having some problem, or you want to take a small break and come back, that's also fine. That's why I want to give you a small hands-on. And again, while you do it, you will have questions that you will never think of without doing the hands-on, right? For that reasons, even though these are very simple, I want you to do hands-on. But at the end of the session, I can give you pretty complex assignments also if you want to take it home and try to do a big thing. But these are small things which you can do. So if you want, you can do it. Or if all of you unanimously say that, yeah, we don't want a hands-on, we can skip and go to the next topic also. It's up to you. So maybe a quick show of hands, like how many of you are okay to go on? If you click this raise hands, it will show me a count, so I'll understand you want to go on without a hands on. Okay, 1, Usha. 2, Ramana. 3, Pavan. 4, Venu. Okay. Yeah, I think a couple of guys